I suppose one of the first questions that came up there was, I guess, it's the relevance of the in-field training that's happening at the moment. Advisors asking, I suppose, I don't have farms in the CP area. Is the training relevant? So maybe, Pat, did you want to just cover that, please?
Sorry, John, could you just repeat it? I had trouble hearing now.
Yeah, the relevance of the in-field scorecard training to non-CP advisors.
Yeah, well, so any advisor who wants to submit a scorecard will have to do the CP or the in-field training on scorecards. So even if you don't have a client that's a CP participant, if you have clients that are general, acres general, and they have either league or low input peat grassland, to submit scorecards for those farmers, you would need to carry out that training.
Thanks, Pat. And then for Caroline, a question on, I guess, the assignment of the scorecards that's happened. An advisor asking if a field is assigned the wader scorecard, can it be changed?
No, in short, there are a very, proportionally, it's a very small number of fields that will have the breeding wader card assigned, and if it is assigned, it's assigned for very specific reasons relating to breeding wader activity in the short term, and a hotspot map provided by Birdwatch Ireland. So it's locked in there for sure.
Okay, it's one of those species that's on a very significant downward decline. So anywhere that it is, we're trying to use the appropriate scorecard. I guess a question that's coming up there quite a few times is, are the 10 scorecards standard across the CP zones?
Yes, so we've all been working together between the known objectives in the high nature value farmland areas and any kind of nuances within the different CPs. We feel that the 10 scorecards are appropriate. Not all scorecards will be used in all CPs, but the vast majority of them will occur across all 8 of them.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. And then a couple of other ones that are arriving is, I guess, it's the logistics of the training events that are being provided in field at the moment. I suppose there's some people saying there's not a distribution that suits them, and others that I suppose their preferred locations are booked up because of the max of 25. And I guess it's back, what are the backup? Now, I know from the department, the perspective at the moment is there's more than 50 places still available, and we want to try and utilize those first. But I suppose what's the sense from Paddy or Caroline in terms of additional dates should the need arise?
Yeah, we're open to the idea of having additional dates, and if there's preferred locations, we might look back at the ones that were most popular in our area, maybe focus in on a couple of extra dates there. We try to do an even spread across the area, and considering that people are travelling to West Connaught from elsewhere, but also within West Connaught that they're dotted throughout. So we'll maybe if we had an indication of the likely candidates where they're coming from, we could choose.
Yeah, look, I think there's over 600 advisors booked in already, and maybe that's just part of the problem, that you had to act fast if you wanted the location that was preferable for you. All the training is the same, so you can go to any of them, and we've put a huge amount of effort into delivering as many training courses as possible before the advisors need to get in the field. So our preference would be that whatever is available, that you utilize that to the best of your ability.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Where are we? I guess another question that's there is, when will the CP plan be available? So I guess they're meaning the scorecards. When will advisors get their full pack? Again, going on the availability of the app, it'll be the 9th of June. maybe others could confirm that, again, that information will be available on the system. And maybe could I ask if Josephine or Anne is available there just to assist with the questions? There's a lot to try and just group up questions if they're there, Andy.
Hi, John. Yeah, I'm here. I've just picked out a few, so I might just come in on them. I suppose there's a lot of questions there coming in on the scorecards. And there's a couple of questions asking does the scorecard have to be completed on the app, or can you bring out a paper version and complete it, and then complete it on LAM later in the office? So maybe I'll ask Oisín or Pat maybe to answer on that.
Yeah, no, you must, like, you can take a paper version out if you like, but you have to start the scorecard on AgriSnap. And if you have an intention, we'll say, of finishing it in GLAM, well, then you have to submit it as a draft. So you can't complete it all on, you can't start it on GLAM, but you can finish if you start on AgriSnap.
Okay.
Just in relation to that, Josephine, I know that some people like to go in the field, consider the different sections, and then think about it and go away and complete the scorecard at a later time. And you can do that, initiate on AgriSnap and then finish up on GLAM. But certainly for people with an awful lot of clients, and in general, I suppose, the best thing really to do is to have the field score submitted before you leave that field. So it is 100% representative of what you saw on the day before you even left the field. So you just run through the methodology, you identify the things that you need to identify, score it and submit, and have it finished with. The ideal really is that when you sit back in the car after doing all the fields on the farm, that you don't have to deal with it again. It just works better for you from an administrative point of view. And once you get into the swing of that, we found that it works well for us too. That the information that's coming in is not what you thought about later. It's what you saw in the field for sure.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Oisín. And just following on from that, if there's no phone coverage, does the app still work? Can you still complete the scorecards? Maybe is that for Stephen or Oisín?
I'd say more so Stephen, the AgriSnap, if you're.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yes, that's why I was saying if we've increased the app that it'll stay logged in for 48 hours. So if you log in an area of good coverage, so in the office or at home before you leave in the morning, make sure that you're logged in. The app will remain active in the background on your phone for up to 48 hours. So if you enter an area of poor coverage, it makes no difference. The app will retain almost all functionality. The only requirement for coverage is to log in and then to submit the photo or the scorecard. So what'll happen is if you go into the field, take your photo, complete your scorecard, and either submit it as a draft or as a final scorecard. When you press submit, it will store there in the phone until you return to an area of good coverage. So coverage is not so much of an issue. The GPS location, GPS works on a different system, so it's not affected.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
Just on that, Stephen, is there an action that the advisor has to take to upload them when they're back in coverage, or does it do automatically in the background?
It should do it automatically in the background, because what will happen is when you complete the scorecard, whether you decide to submit the draft or submit the completed version, you must submit something. If you go back out of that scorecard without having submitted, the information that you collected will not be retained within the phone. So it must be submitted in one of the two forms, either as a draft or as a final scorecard. It'll then be held in the background until you enter an area of good coverage and will automatically then be sent in. And you can go back into the photos option that I showed at the bottom, and it will actually then display what has been sent in. So if the photo associated with that scorecard has a sent message over the top of it, it has been sent. The request will change from pending, which was the orange color, to a green color with received, and then it should be available. You will also then be able to go back into the office and check through GLAM that that scorecard has been submitted. So there are a number of, we've tried to develop it that it's as flexible as possible. So there are a number of options there for you to work with.
Thanks, Stephen. I see there's a number of questions coming up related to, I suppose, withdrawing plans, withdrawing actions, or withdrawing part of actions. So maybe Aidan, I think you covered those in your slides. If you just clarify again what the advisor farmer can do, or up to when can they withdraw an action, maybe is the key part of it.
Thanks, John. Yeah, you can withdraw an action at any point. All you need to do is you need to contact the acres admin teams, either general or CP, depending on which stream your applicant is in. Just and give the details of the action that you wish to withdraw, the tierage, or if it's an action that has given you a specific tierage, you know based on what was on the approval letter, if it's one of the actions that has given you the specific tierage, and the LIPUS parcel on which the action is on. We will then go and we will withdraw that action, and obviously, of course, why you want to withdraw the action. We will go then and withdraw that action, and you'll get an acknowledgement then that that action has been withdrawn. But just bear in mind that you may be, if you withdraw an action in year 4 of your contract, you may be asked, your client may be asked to reimburse the department with all the money that has been paid up until then for the action. So that's something that you must consider before you decide whether or not you want to withdraw the action. But and it's the same for withdrawal of a contract. Again, you just contact the acres teams, and we'll do the withdrawing, and we will let you know then when that action has been withdrawn.
Thanks, Aidan. There's a couple of questions there on the BIS screens as well. Maybe it's getting a bit late for that at the moment, but I suppose again it's just clarifying that point that the BIS screen that was available for acres CP, it didn't, I suppose Aidan, you can clarify, it didn't show any actions because there wasn't any selected at the moment. Then in terms of, I guess, which is paid on, the reference area or eligible hectare. And then if there is an obvious error of a field boundary not being corrected, should it be corrected? Aidan or maybe Pat.
Okay, to take the last one first, if there's an obvious error, and it, say for example, if it's an easily corrected error, for example, if you drew a split parcel action on acres, and when you went into your BIS, the split parcel action was still part of the original parcel that it had been on, the easiest thing to do there probably is just to subdivide your parcel in the land details screen, along the lines of where the action was split out, and then that'll be picked up for redigitization then once the BIS application is closed and they're doing the online amendments. For any other action, for any other errors, it's probably the best thing to do if you're unsure of anything is to contact the acres teams, and we'll look into it, and we will either advise you how to correct it yourself, or we'll get on to maybe the LIPUS teams or whoever needs to correct it. And if it can't be corrected before the BIS deadline ends, well then the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and submit your BIS application, but leave a note in the appropriate section, so that then we'll get those notes from BIS then once the applications are closed, and we will be able to look at that then and hopefully deal with the issues before it goes through for prepayment validation. What was the other? Or the other one was what was the other question, John? Sorry.
The reference area or eligible hectare, which is paid on.
For whole parcel actions, the eligible for year 1, the eligible hectare will be the same as the acres claimed area. For split parcel actions, it's the lesser of the eligible hectare for the new parcel, or the area that was drawn on GLAM. For when you went in to draw the area on GLAM for your FSP, it's the lesser of those two that will be paid on.
Okay, thanks, Aidan. And then one partly related as well to the material you were covering was an advisor retired. Where is the scorecard going, or how do they change that? you know, so an advisor retires, so who's doing the work? Where's the, if you want to come back to it later,
You know, I'm not sure how that works out, to be honest with you, how you can transfer advisors. I think it's, yeah, maybe we look into that and get back to the whoever asked.
Yeah, we'll get back to them. Okay, then one that's just coming up there on, I guess it's covered during the infield training of the scorecards is, I suppose again, it's clarification around, is every parcel in the CP scored or just a representation? I suppose it's the logic and rationale that happens. Caroline or Patty maybe, or Pat.
Do you want to ask that question again, John? So every eligible parcel in the CP will have a scorecard assigned to it. And Pat just outlined the issues that are going to arise if they aren't all scored.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe I'll clarify as well what an eligible parcel would be. So when the CP teams are delineating the fields, they were looking at the 2022 parcels for that participant. So if the parcel intersected the CP zone, if it had an MEA greater than 0, and it would one of the crop codes, permanent pasture, LIP or THM, then it was delineated and assigned a scorecard. So the owned parcels then have to be scored, and it's optional to include the rented or leased. So if you submit a scorecard in year 1 for rented or leased CP parcel, that is the farmer declaring that parcel as acre contract lands, and it's committed to for the 5 years. And just maybe if I clarify as well on the eligible hectare, so yeah, so what Ed said is right, but if a farmer claims a lower area on their BIS, they will be paid on the area they claim. So if they think the eligible hectare is incorrect and is too high, they can reduce the claim. So for instance, if they put in a new roadway or there's a farm building gone into that parcel, well then the eligible hectare wouldn't be fully, you know, they should be reducing their claim. So they would be claimed on the lower of the two.
Okay, thanks, Pat. There's a group of questions related to commonage. So maybe Aidan, you could deal with these. And again, it's more or less, it's a similar line. It's clarifying, I suppose, the process that's happening with commonage scoring. And I guess when will advisors know the piece of commonage that they need to work on in terms of those areas that are less than 10 hectares? Clarifying if, you know, if there's 5 shareholders on a small piece of commonage, will it be 5 separate management plans? Start with that, and I'll be trying to clarify in my own head.
Yeah. So I'll take the last one there first, John. I suppose just that issue, I suppose, of, so if there is a parcel of commonage that's less than or equal to 10 hectares and the CP teams don't want to score that as part of the larger commonage complex, we'll say a commonage farm plan needs to be submitted for that for each acres shareholder in that. And obviously the number of shareholders in that small parcel, we'll say, may have different advisors. So there could potentially be multiple commonage farm plans submitted for that same small area of commonage. But I suppose ultimately it will be back to the farmers, the client's own advisor, to submit the commonage farm plan. Now, when we will be able to notify you as advisors, we'll say, or the clients, we'll say, of which parcels need that commonage farm plan, will depend very much, I suppose, on the progress that's been made by the CP teams on assessing the data that they have on all of those commonage parcels. But I suppose when we have that data, we'll be notifying clients then of the requirement to submit the commonage farm plan and a deadline by which it'll have to be submitted.
Okay. So I guess a related question then that was in that series is, if a farmer has, you know, a large commonage that's obviously going to be assessed by the CP teams, but has an adjacent small commonage, like is that integrated in the, I suppose, the work by the CP teams?
So Caroline, I don't know whether Caroline or Paddy, I suppose, can answer this, but I suppose, yeah, the protocol, I suppose, that they are dealing with, I suppose, is that would be the scenario where the small parcel would be scored as part of the larger commonage complex, because that would be adjacent, running adjacent to the larger. Caroline, I don't know whether you wanted to add, or Paddy.
Yeah, that's the way we're doing it. Is if there's a 9-hectare commonage backing onto a much larger area of similar area, we'd definitely include it in our assessment. We're doing it on a case-by-case basis as to whether we feel we should be including them or not.
Yeah, as long as they're directly linked, directly adjacent, then they're part of it. If there is I can't remember what cutoff we had, but 100 meters, for example, if it was 100 meters away, it's possible it's been kicked back to non-CP teams.
Okay, so overall it's a work in progress in terms of clearly identifying the areas of commonage less than 10 hectares that would require the advice.
It isn't a work in progress. It's been complete, but we just need to, I suppose, make sure that the advisors are aware of the ones that are relevant to the advisor ASAP, sooner rather than later. We just need to work that out with the Department of Ag.
Okay, and then a related question on it is, will further training then be provided to advisors for what they need to complete for those small commonages?
Yeah, so look at it. Yeah, we'll obviously, whenever we'll say the full requirements of the commonage farm plan is there, we'll be delivering something on that guidance. We'll say that on completion and submission of the commonage farm plans.